Yo, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be analyzing and kind of explaining some of the best plays in the Pokemon TCG that were made in 2025. Obviously, we've been in 2026 for about a month, but I think it's still pretty cool to maybe go over some of these plays and see how, they were possible. So yeah, make sure to subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's get straight into it. So the first play here is probably the most iconic one. I'm starting with this one because I think there's some plays later in the video y'all might not know about, but basically this is from NAIC 2025, Riley McKay versus Tord Reklev, Dragapult, straight Dragapult versus Gardevoir. The prize cards are tied at 3 and 3, and it's turn 2 of time. Both players have one game in the set, so whoever wins this game will win. It's turn 2 of time, and it's Riley's turn, meaning that next turn for Tord will be turn 3. So if Tord has the lead on prize cards at the end of turn 3, he will win. Basically, right now, Riley only has this Lily's Clefairy as his only attacker. This is the one thing he has on his board really that can threaten Tord, and it's tied 3 and 3, and it's Riley's turn. He could knock out this Dragapult EX right now to go up one prize card left to take, but then he opens himself up to Ursaluna, KOing this Clefairy, and then with no backup attacker, he's likely to lose the game actually if he KOs this Dragapult, because he'll have no backup attacker, and that means he can't respond to the Ursaluna, and then the Ursaluna can easily retreat into the Dragapult that has already a Luminous charged up on the bench. And yeah, so basically Riley, he will lose to a boss's orders or a jamming tower if he doesn't attack. Let's say he passed, he would lose to boss's orders or jamming tower. But Tord has a jamming tower in his deck, and actually earlier in the game, Tord had to research away some bosses, meaning that he doesn't have that many boss's orders left in his deck. So playing to play around boss's orders is probably like, normally against Dragapult, you assume they have a boss in their hand, but because there's some in the discard pile, Riley thinks it is okay to go for this play. He ends up just passing the turn, famously. This is one of the most iconic plays probably ever by now. He just passes the turn instead of, taking this what seemingly obvious knockout on this Dragapult, and it then forces Tord to find either jamming tower, which will win him the game instantly, or he would then need to find boss's orders, and he actually whiffs boss's orders off the recon directives and whiffs jamming tower off of the Iono that he ends up playing, and Riley is then able to, hold on if I can get to the right point, Riley, yeah, he's then able to win the game on the following turn once Tord just promotes an Ursaluna and passes. Tord would have had the Ursaluna KO on the Clefairy, so if Riley had KO'd this Dragapult, he would have lost the game. So this is just an incredible play by Riley, the world champion, obviously. Heads up play, kind of. Like, most players wouldn't think of doing that in the moment, like passing. Like, oh, this knockout does seem super free. It feels wrong to just leave this in the active and pass. But in this situation, it was the right play. And as we see, Riley just KOs this Blood Moon to win the game. The next play I'm going to go over in this video is from the World Championships Seniors Finals in 2025. This is Fuguan Lao versus Gabe Fernandez. They are in game 1 right now in the finals, and Fuguan is playing this Joltik box Gholdengo EX deck where he uses like Iron Hands and Joltik in the early game to put on a ton of pressure and then cleans up with Gholdengo sort of. And right now he's trying to clean up with Gholdengo. Both players have 2 prizes left to take, and it's Fuguan's turn, and Fuguan really needs to win the game this turn, because if he doesn't, it's likely that Gabriel's Pecharunt EX will win the game on the following turn, and that would be obviously terrible. So he doesn't, want to lose. So he's trying to win this turn. He has used his active coin bonus already, and he has, I'm pretty sure it was 3 superior in the deck. I could be wrong, but he has 3 superior in the deck and an Arven in his hand. So he has 1 coin bonus draw left, and it's on the bench, meaning it'll only draw 1. If it was in the active, it would draw 2. So what Fuguan decides to do is, instead of just drawing the 1 card and trying to find one of the 4 outs to gust, oh yeah, he needs to gust because there's a Reshiram in the active. So he needs to play Prime Catcher or Boss plus a Superior. So Fuguan makes a really cool sequencing play where he Arvens for Prime Catcher and Air Balloon, and what that allows him to do is it allows him to kind of not only thin the Air Balloon out of the deck, but it also allows him to get an extra draw off coin bonus, and it gets him the gust he needs for the turn. So it's kind of like a really just like heads up play that you normally wouldn't make in these sort of moments where you're trying to find that 1 out. But in this situation, because the Prime Catcher draws him an extra card, it is actually optimal to just grab the Prime Catcher and the Air Balloon. It increased his odds of winning this game, and as we'll see, it eventually does pay off as he plays the Prime Catcher on Pecharunt EX, He already has an energy in his hand, meaning all he needs to hit is one of his 3 superior energy retrieval to win the game. Yeah, there was actually a card that was out of order in the hand, so Fuguan just had to wait for the judge to, yeah, because there was a card that was flipped over suspiciously in the deck after Gabriel had shuffled the deck, but the game, he ends up hitting the superior, gives himself better odds, and it works out. It wouldn't be a high IQ plays video without talking about some of the best plays from Liam Halliburton. This is in the Pittsburgh Regional Championship Finals against Abon Ahmed. Gardevoir versus Zoroark. So this is actually Gardevoir Jealous, meaning that item lock is kind of the name of the game for Abon. He's not going to win this matchup by prize trading Liam. He's only going to win through some sort of cheese, and that's exactly what he's trying to do here, and Liam knows it. So Abon right now with this board, what he's trying to do is he's trying, like, in his best ability to knock out this Ends Reshiram, because there's one Ends Reshiram in the discard pile right now, and with a Jellicent or Frillish, like, doing what they're doing, you know, Liam won't be able to play an item card to get the Reshirams back, meaning that if Abon can get this Reshiram in the discard pile under an item lock by, like, say, going into Jellicent and knocking it out, he will be in a very commanding spot to win the game. And that's what Liam really doesn't want to happen. He doesn't want this Reshiram to die under an item lock, because then he probably will lose. So what Liam ends up doing here, also it's worth noting, Abon doesn't have a Gardevoir in play, meaning that there's not that big of a threat of, like, a ton of damage coming over from Abon's side. But Liam's really he's just really scared of this Reshiram getting KO'd, kind of, and he doesn't want to give Abon counter catcher with a Jealous. Basically, if Liam takes just a KO on this Frillish, then he will give Abon counter catcher on Reshiram for free and let him have another Frillish in the back to item lock with. So Liam's just really scared of item lock counter catcher basically in this situation. So he makes one of the craziest plays I've ever seen. I got confused by this. I got faked out. So he has 2 Monkey Dories set up, and he's trying to basically KO both of these Frillish at once. So what Liam ends up doing is that he sets this up beautifully. He has double Adrenabrain with 60 damage to move. And the problem is he can't use Reshiram's second attack to KO a Frillish, because then he opens himself up to the play he doesn't want to make. So he ends up putting 5 on this Frillish, meaning that it's 1 Adrenabrain away from going down. And then, brilliantly, this faked out a bond too. He uses Reshiram to copy, or he uses Zoroark to copy Ends Reshiram's first attack, Powerful Rage. And that ends up only doing 40 damage. Powerful Rage does 20 damage for each damage counter on the Pokemon. And Zoroark has 10 damage on it right now, meaning that 1 more damage counter and the Frillish would get knocked out. But the math just worked out perfectly for Liam. This Reshiram ends up only doing 40 damage. And now Abon is in a pretty tough position where one of his Frillish are most likely to die on the following turn. Because if he Adrenabrains 10 from each, then, or if he Adrenabrains 30 from each, sorry, then Liam can just use a double Monkey Dory on the next turn to KO the other one, because the damage is going to be on Liam's side from the Frillish. And if Abon moves, like, say, all 50 from this one, Liam just goes double Adrenabrain to KO this Frillish. If there's basically, in this situation, there's no way now for Abon to item lock and KO this Reshiram, because both of his Frillish are going to die in the next turn. Most likely. So this is just a brilliant play from Liam, identifying the biggest threat to his board and thinking of any way he can possibly set up enough damage to eliminate the threat and put him in a great position to win. Obviously, right after this, the famous Monkey Dory incident happens where Abon ends up conceding. But I think also part of the reason Abon ended up conceding was that he knew this matchup was pretty bad, and Liam was just playing out of his mind. So yeah, Liam, amazing play here. Up next, we have obviously the hilarious, I mean, I don't want to say hilarious, but the very memorable, let's just say, Las Vegas Regional Finals, where Liam's only way to break through Tord Reklev's Cornerstone Ogerpon walls was to use Blood Moon Ursaluna plus a Team Rocket's Watchtower to turn off its ability, meaning that Blood Moon can pierce through Ogerpon's Cornerstone Stance ability. So Liam ends up going with an Iono to send Tord to a very low hand size, limiting his options on the next turn, trying to hope that Tord, you know, doesn't find enough ways to heal this Cornerstone, like a Penny, let's just say, which would heal all the damage. Tord ends up drawing into a Monkey Dory and a Dark Energy, but he does not want to bench that. The reason is that Liam has 3 prizes left, so if Tord benches his Monkey Dory, he will most likely lose to Liam's own Monkey Dory potentially, and like a KO, boss KO on the, what do you call it, on the Monkey Dory. So he basically wants to force Liam to take 4 prizes to win this game, instead of taking 3 by KOing this damaged Cornerstone and the Monkey Dory. So Tord really doesn't want to put that monkey into play. What Tord ends up doing is he just punches into the Ursaluna. Liam has a very low deck size by this point, but he sees a way. Basically, if Liam, he can't attack with this Ursaluna again, because if he does that, then he's in serious danger of this Cornerstone just knocking it out for an energy. He does not want to lose the game to an energy card here, because if this Ursaluna goes down, he does lose the game, because Tord doesn't have to bench a Monkey Dory. So Liam does the only right play, the only sane play, and goes in with the Ends Zorua plus Scratch, the attack from Ends Zorua that does 20 damage. And since the Cornerstone has 20 health left, because Bravery Charm 260 health minus the 240 from Blood Moon, Zorua is able to knock out this Cornerstone. And now Tord, instead of just needing an energy to win the game to KO Ursaluna, he needs energy boss. He doesn't get it, and the game ends with Liam winning, finding a way through a abysmal matchup. He didn't end up winning the set because it went to time, and he just wasn't able to get fast enough through the turns to get through time, but just an amazing play from Liam here again. Next up, we have the finals of the San Antonio Regional Championships at the start of 2025 in January. Henry Chow, obviously one of the greats in the game, versus Alex Szymanski, another one of the greats in the game historically. These are two amazing players. It's a Palkia V-Star versus, obviously, Henry Chow and Gardevoir. What do you expect him to be playing? So this play right here is really important. Henry, so Alex has a full bench of 8 Pokemon with Area Zero Underdepths in play, and Henry, before doing anything else, he did play an Iono before, but he didn't have a Stadium. He ends up bumping to Area Zero, and then before doing anything else, he's going to wait and see what Alex discards to try to make the perfect play off of that. So basically, there's a Pheasantipede, so 2 Noctowls are going to hit the discard pile for sure, because he has to discard down to 5. There's 2 Noctowls there, just get rid of those. But this last Pokemon that he's going to discard is a very tough decision. He doesn't want to discard Bibarel because that's onboard draw power for him. He doesn't want to get rid of this Hoot Hoot because that potentially gives him more options if he draws into like an Ultra Ball or a Noctowl or a Night Stretcher, which would let him use Jewel Seeker with Terrapagos. He doesn't want to get rid of Terrapagos because he needs Terrapagos to use the Hoot Hoot. And he really, this is a decision he ends up making between Radiant Greninja and Pheasantipede. These are the only 2 that he thinks are worth potentially getting rid of here. And he ends up, I believe, going with the Pheasantipede. His thinking is that Henry is probably not going to take a knockout anyways on this turn to play around Fez draw. But by doing that, he opens himself up to a snipe on his Hoot Hoot and Bibarel. And now he is less likely to draw into draw power. So Alex got it out to a 3-6 lead so far in this game. Henry is just trying to come back really right now. And I believe he ends up going after the Bibarel here. Yes, he does. He's putting all that damage and goes after Bibarel. The reason is the Hoot Hoot, if it evolves, is now not a threat. But if he KOs this Bibarel, now Alex is going to have to do a lot in order to get draw power back. Alex actually has a Noctowl in his hand, which is probably why he chose to get rid of Pheasantipede, thinking he had a lot of stability. He also kept the Radiant Greninja because he has a water in hand. But that Fez discard is going to cost him dearly in this one, as we all kind of found out. So Alex is in a weird spot. He has no Area Zero. He has a Noctowl in hand, but he really, if he uses it, he's really just out of options. He has no plays he can make on the next turn. Alex ends up going after this Kirlia, because he knows if he KOs the Screamtail, it's not going to do too much to hinder Henry. But by KOing this Kirlia, it can limit Henry's draw severely. Because now, instead of potentially getting 4 off Refinement, he's only going to get, he's only going to get 2 at most if he finds a Kirlia. So this is where Monkey Dory kind of steals the show. He has a Nest Ball that can find Monkey Dory. So he's going to Nest Ball for the Monkey Dory and attach a Dark to it because he has that in hand. And right now, he's really hoping to hit Iono Counter Catcher on a Terrapagos. Terrapagos has a 2 retreat cost, meaning that if Henry can get that stuck in the active spot and use Screamtail to snipe this Hoot Hoot, it can buy him a turn. And Henry right now just needs to buy as much time as possible because obviously he's losing the game. And when you're losing, you really want to give yourself as much time as possible. That's really, like, you want to give yourself time to take attacks. Like, you want to be able to attack. And he ends up drawing into the secret box, which basically guarantees him counter catcher here. So Henry's going to obviously try to get that counter catcher on the Terrapagos. Draw first though, because you could draw into counter catcher and not need to use a secret box on it. That would obviously suck if you secret box for something you could have just drawn into anyway. Henry really, he has everything he needs to this turn. He drew into everything. It's just about execution and trying to set up damage in some way to take 5 prize cards in most likely only 3 turns. Like, that's probably the most Henry's gonna have. Because if this buys him a turn, only 1 turn, then Alex can still win in 2 knockouts, most likely. Alex still has access to Star Portal plus Radiant Greninja, which can take 2 prize cards on this current board. So what Henry can do here, because he's drawn into a Bravery Charm, he can try to counter catcher up Terrapagos. And if he puts a Bravery Charm on the Scream Tail and uses a Drenabrain to move some of the damage off the Scream Tail, now a switch doesn't win Alex the game. Because Henry's always going after the Hoot Hoot, but he will lose if a switching card is drawn because Star Portal should be able to charge up Radiant Greninja to use Moonlight Shuriken to take 2 prize cards on the Kirlia and the Screamtail. But if Henry uses a Bravery Charm on this Screamtail and moves some of the damage off it, now it has more than 90 HP, meaning that Radiant Greninja can't fully knock it out. And this 20, I'm pretty sure he ends up putting on the Palkia or the Fan Rotom. His prize map, he's looking at it. He doesn't want to really KO Terrapagos because that's a liability for Alex, right? Palkia is a threat. He wants to KO the Hoot Hoot, and he wants to set himself up to KO. I'm pretty sure his map here that he's thinking of is 1-1-1-2, basically. He's going to KO the Hoot Hoot, then KO, try to get a double Monkey Dory, maybe KO with KO on this Fan Rotom, and then KO the Radiant Greninja with like Screamtail, right? So he's thinking it through. Alex, obviously off an Iono, he's not going to have too many options here. And because he discarded the Fez, all he can do really is pass. He wants to keep cards in his hand and not play the Ultra Ball. But with no Fez and Dippity and only Radiant Greninja, that's not guaranteeing him a lot of draw. And it lets Henry kind of take knockouts here. Which if he had Fez in play, if Alex had Fez in play, knockouts would be a little bit more risky for Henry to take because then it opens up Fez draw, right? Henry could have obviously just KO'd the Fez, but if he does that, he would need to put a ton of damage on one of his Pokemon, and Radiant Greninja can probably just clean up the game in that situation. So Henry was kind of just avoiding that, and he got pretty fortunate. Alex discarded that Pheasantipity and decided to keep Greninja. I understand why he kept Greninja, though, because he needs a threat of Moonlight Shuriken on board with Star Portal. But it ends up working out for Henry either way. That Moonlight Hill bump, just like he played it at the perfect time and really made the perfect optimal play based on that discard. So now Henry is kind of just taking it slow. He doesn't want to put more damage on the Screamtail because then he will lose to a switching card if it is drawn. If he puts too much, if he overloads the Screamtail, right? And he actually doesn't have the ability to one-shot the Palkia, I believe. Or if he does one-shot the Palkia, then he will open himself up to a trapping play on like his Kirlia. So he doesn't want that to happen. So Alex has Silene, which can potentially get a resource back for him. So Alex is just looking for like a switching card, right? He needs to get this Terrapagos, this huge liability, out of the active spot. And he also kind of wants an energy, right, to draw further. He's eyeing up the switch, obviously, and a Night Stretcher, which can get him energy or Pheasantipity on the next turn. Alex just puts the Night Stretcher and the switch at the top of his deck, so he's able to draw. And then he ends up just passing again. Oh, shit, I skipped way too far ahead. But he ends up passing again. Henry finds Boss's Orders and gets a double Monkey Dory established. And he's able to boss up the Palkia, KO it, put some damage on this Fan Rotom, and really just eliminate Alex's only Palkia. That's the biggest threat on his board. Now, Radiant Greninja is not a threat because he can't use Star Portal to accelerate to it. It wasn't as big of a threat anyways, though, because, like, Henry manipulated the damage so that he wouldn't lose to a Fan Rotom. Or not, sorry, he wouldn't lose to a Greninja attack. Henry really didn't want to lose to a switching card. So, Henry kind of just played this perfectly in a really massive comeback. Just Iono counter catcher. picking apart the only weaknesses on Alex's board. The fact he didn't have a Fez down, all that stuff. So yeah, Henry just ends up Adrenabraining, KOing this Fan Rotom. Screamtail KOs the Greninja and wins him the tournament. And the last play I'm going to go over in today's video is from Gdansk Regionals just a few months ago in November. This is Mike Ellis versus Francesco Peronti in round 13. So, you know, the players are 9-2-1. Marnie's Grimmsnarl on the right for Mike Ellis, and Terra Box, whatever you want to call it, on the left for Francesco. So Francesco's in a bit of a weird spot. Mike has 4 prizes left to take, but one of them is going to be taken in between turns because of this Knock Towel that's got 90 on it. The Frostlass is in play. It's going to KO it. Francesco is trying his best to not lose the game right away. So, he knows Mike doesn't play that many bosses in his deck. He doesn't play that much Gust. So I'm pretty sure there was an Iono played at some point. Mike has a low, I don't want to say low hand size, but the odds he has a Gust are kind of like not too high. So this Noctowl ends up going down. Mike really has to like try to win this turn because he will just lose to like a Pikachu attack on the following turn. He wants to find a way to win this turn. Like, he could maybe settle for a lesser play, but he's really thinking about all his options here. He's got a play, actually, that will guarantee him the win. He did not pull a counter catcher off the prizes, which would have instantly won him the game. He has 2 Adrenabrains to work with, but only 20 damage each. So, Mike, he's made a perfect play here. He goes in Ultra Balls for Iron Bundle, but he doesn't use it right away. So, basically, he has 3 prizes left to take. And he can KO this Fan Rotom with Double Monkey Dory. But he has Iron Bundle in the hand. He already flashed it. Francesco, if he promotes any of these 2 prizers, they just die to Grim. But if he promotes this Noctowl, now Mike can just KO the Fan Rotom. And then after Francesco promotes, or he actually ends up KOing the Noctowl, it worked out either way. He can KO that, use Iron Bundle to force up a 2-prizer, and with Frostlass and Grimmsnarl, he's able to just clean up from there. It was a great time, just a little sequencing thing. Like, he waited to play the bundle until the end. It was a very, you know, high-level play with the Iron Bundle. Mike clearly knew exactly what he was doing there, and was able to win the round. All right, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know if this is something you kind of want to see more of, just kind of like my analysis on all things Pokemon. I mean, I already do sort of similar content to this with like my my history videos, but I think, I mean, I kind of want to switch up everything every once in a while, you know, and I think this is a pretty fun thing to talk about. It was a great year of Pokemon in 2025. There were so many amazing plays. I couldn't cover all of them in this video, obviously. There are a lot of great plays that were made, I'm sure, that I didn't cover. Let me know in the comments if you have any of those you want to mention, and yeah, take care. Have a good one. Bye.